Good morning, everyone. This is the collective bargaining session between the City of Boise and the Boise Police Union. As is our custom, if we could just go around and introduce ourselves, that would be great. My name is Courtney Washburn. I'm the Chief of Staff for the City of Boise.
Jamie Sullivan, City Attorney.
Biff Jones, Chief Administrative Officer for the Department of Finance and Administration.
Damon Jones, Police Union. Kyle Wills, Boise Police Union.
Denny Carter, Boise Police Union.
AJ Veens, Boise Police Union.
Kristen Holtz, HR.
Ron Weiniger, Interim Chief of Police.
Adam Collier, City's outside legal counsel.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand the microphone over to the Mayor of Boise to open our meeting today.
Well, good morning, everybody. I wanted to come in to address a couple things and recognizing I'm not just speaking to you, but to union members of the department and the community as a whole at this moment. I'm here to do it because I think before we begin today's proceedings, I want to address the steps I'll be taking after learning of retired police department officer Matt Bringelson's participation in a white nationalist conference and his ongoing contributions to racist, dehumanizing propaganda while serving as a sworn officer in the department. I'm launching a full investigation into the actions of retired Officer Bringelson and to determine the extent to which or whether these ideas impact the department further. That this officer served in this department for 2 decades is appalling. We must ensure the public that action taken by the members of this department were forthright and determine if this issue is pervasive within the department. This is serious. Our community deserves a police department worthy of their investment and trust. BPD staff who work day in and day out to live up to their commitment to protect and serve this community find themselves as morally outraged as I am that the racist, dehumanizing propaganda spouted by at least one of their coworkers deserve to know that we have their backs. We will conduct an independent investigation through an independent investigator with deep experience in this type of work. The community, city council, and my office deserve to know if any resources were used by Bringelson or others in the department to advance racist ideology. We will seek to determine if there were residents whose rights were violated or interactions with officers impacted by action taken by officers espousing this ideology. We will also seek to determine if people within the department were impacted, workers within the department were impacted because they pushed back against this ideology. We will know after this investigation the extent to which this is or is not pervasive within the department, and we will act accordingly. Let me be clear. I expect and the community deserves your full cooperation, your honesty and integrity to the oaths you've sworn in this investigation. I expect this from the union, from department leadership, from every one of our rank and file officers and our staff. This is no time to consider circling the wagons, and I will not tolerate anyone who tries to impede this investigation in any way. And for those in the Boise Police Department, if you cannot or will not cooperate fully and honestly, I suggest that now is the time to leave. And honestly, it's the time to leave the profession because the people of Boise rely on you to protect and to serve them. The people of Boise deserve better. Everyone should trust that they will be treated fairly. And we can't expect that people will be able to trust that someone who perpetuates such blatant racism while serving as an officer in this force would have been able to treat those he reviles so deeply in a fair way, in the way that members of our community, any community, deserve and expect. And finally, because we have to take care of the officers that are here in good faith and goodwill to protect and serve, I've directed my team to continue to bargain in good faith at this table, so we might appropriately compensate and recognize those in the department who wake up every day, and I know they do, to protect everyone in our community living out their sworn oath in service to the residents of Boise. Thank you.
The union would like to follow the mayor's comment with a statement. We denounce Mr. Briggleson's actions, his beliefs. We support the mayor and her desire to ensure that the department doesn't have those issues. We support the mayor and her beliefs, and that people are humans and they should be treated with respect and with dignity. But at the same time, we also want to notify the public that Mr. Bringleson was not a member of the union. He was a member of management. And we will full-heartedly, cooperate. And I think that you will find that the citizens of Boise, the trust that they have is earned, minus this blemish from a former officer. And so we support the mayor and her beliefs and going forward, and we want to denounce his actions 100%.
And with that, the city intends to continue our bargaining discussions. I believe it's our intent for me to turn the microphone over to Adam to just do an overview of what the city believes it's still waiting on. And then if we don't have that quite right, if you guys would just let us know as we move forward.
Thank you. So I've got a list of items that I think are still open or we're waiting for responses on. One is the CLA cleanup language. I think there was some agreement on some of the changes, but I don't think that we have resolved or reached a conclusion on all of them. And so I think at some point we need to not lose sight of that. And there's a number of items that we have TA'd, and I'll just list these so that we're all on the same page. The city's proposal 1, the city's proposal 2, the city's proposal 4, the city's proposal 5, and then there's a couple of others I have question marks. The city's proposal 3, I think we gave you a counter proposal on August 3rd, and I'm not sure of the status of that. A member of our team thought we had a tentative agreement, but we don't have an actually signed tentative agreement. So I think we need to check on the status of the city's proposal 3. Proposal 6, the quarterly firearms training, we presented that on July 13th, and I'm not sure that we've gotten a response on that. I think that's still open. And then proposal 10, the workers' comp proposal, we provided a proposal on August 3rd. And again, DC Brooks had listed that as a tentative agreement. We don't actually have a signed tentative agreement on that. So I think we need to check on the status of that as well. And then I can run through the union proposals and just do a brief summary. So it's my understanding proposal A was withdrawn and is now being negotiated as part of proposal G. The union withdrew their proposal B. And proposal C is still open. That's the pay steps. Proposal D was withdrawn. Proposal E was rejected by the city, and I don't believe it's been formally withdrawn, but I don't think there's been any discussion about it for a while. Proposal F, we have a tentative agreement on that. The MOU regarding the COVID vaccine policy, we rejected that proposal, and I don't think there's been any discussion about it since we rejected it. It hasn't been formally withdrawn. The MOU regarding FTO compensation is open. The MOU regarding the crisis negotiations unit sergeant compensation. I think we agreed to include that MOU language in the next CLA. We haven't formally TA'd it, but I think that's what we agreed to do. Proposal G, the city had presented a counter on that on August 8th. And I believe that's when I was going back through the proposals, that was the last proposal on the issue. But if you have given us something since then, please let us know. And then the other proposals, the economic proposals, I think those are all open as part of the overall compensation package.
Yeah, I think that seems to be fairly correct. I think the proposal 10 from the city related to workman's comp, I think it's still under legal review by our attorney, but I think we can probably come to a tentative agreement on it here today or in the near future.
And just for clarification, who is that attorney?
Who is our legal attorney?
Yeah, you just said that there was a document under review from your legal counsel. I'm just trying to ascertain who that is.
Yeah, sorry. I was just clarifying your question. Guy Hallam.
And he's the one representing you in this matter.
He's our traditional union attorney that we're asking him to review this. Yes.
Thank you.
He and Will Aitchison are both reviewing
Okay, thank you.
documents for us.
I just want to take a moment and make sure we all agree that we all know, like, that was that an accurate list? And the only addition was proposal 10.
We're going to have to go back and review it real quick. If you want to take a break, we can go do that on a breakout session, or we can move forward, and then during that next breakout session, we can review it.
And it's my understanding, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, that now the city is anticipating a wage proposal by the union. Are you prepared to do that?
Yes. I think prior to us starting on that, we kind of need to get a resolve on the number of full-time employees that this would affect. Even on the 15th, Biff, you used 311 employees. We want to kind of clarify that because, and maybe Chief Weiniger could speak to it a little more, but there are approximately 21 non-union members in that 311. So we feel the number is 290, but when the city provides us with cost estimates, they're using 311, which is a 6.8% difference. And so we kind of need to get to that before we really start looking hard at numbers.
I'll speak and I'll do some validation real quick. But my understanding in the Questica system is that there's 311 union tagged positions. So let me double check on that and I'll get right back to you.
Okay.
So just so I can jump in, Biff, just to kind of give you an idea. So we have, I think, 245 union members, and I think we have 4 that are eligible and are not. So if you took, that would not include anybody that's a new hire on probation. So I think unless we have 61 in training, which I don't believe is accurate, I don't think it's even close to that, then the 311 number will be off. Just so you're aware.
Yeah, so I think the 311 number includes the chief, the deputy chief, the captains, lieutenants, and all that, which are not part of this negotiation. So if there was a pay raise negotiated, it wouldn't apply to them, although maybe the chief would like that. And so that accounts for about a 6.8% difference. And we just want to make sure that when you're crunching numbers, you're crunching real numbers for us. So we're all on the same page and not having a 7% error factor or cushion, so to speak. So the union has dropped in a wage proposal. If you look at the slide 1, it has the pay schedule proposed by the city on September 15th, A through M schedules with the time grades, the proposed pay. The middle column has our current pay schedule with our current pay. The blue highlights are changes because we don't have a current pay grade for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, et cetera. And then the union counter proposal for pay schedule, times and grade, and a 6.5% pay raise and what those numbers would be. And the far right column is the dollar difference between what the city proposed and what we're proposing. If you go down to page 3, I guess it is, slide 3. This is year 2, 6.5% raise. What those figures would look like, time and grade. Slide 4 is what the sergeants would look like given the current pay structure scale. And then additionally, the last page has to do with post-certification pay, detective incentive pay, which we've already presented and have yet to hear back on, and the sick leave buy down proposal, along with the proposed on-call changes previously made.
Biff, I'm going to assume, and Adam, that this is enough information that the city probably wants to caucus, but I'll hold the space to see if there are any questions before we do so.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. Quick response back to the 311 question. So I'm going to drop a file in the city's folder, and it specifies every single position that's included in that 311, and they are non-probationary and they are classified as union positions. And it may be the difference between approved FTE authority and filled positions. I don't know if that might be the discrepancy that is driving the perception. But the city, as we're forecasting into the future, we hope to get to a point where all of those positions are filled. So would that be helpful to see that list of all those positions?
I think so, but we're not so much concerned. We understand the vacancy rate and that we're going to base the numbers on if those vacancies were filled.
Mhm.
But my understanding, and maybe the chief can speak to this, or perhaps Chief Washburn could speak to it, is the department is slated for 311 full-time employees to include captains, lieutenants, deputy chiefs, and chiefs. And so perhaps we're slated for 332, but we're just reviewing budget numbers and city meeting notes. My understanding is that for 2023 fiscal year, the full-time employee rate to include all those members was 311. So that's our question.
I think it's best if we just take this with your wage counter proposal and just be in a position to fully answer it, or it sounds like we might go back and forth on this for quite a while. It's not the city's intention to pull resources from your existing members. We obviously need to have the right number, so we'll go back and look at that. I suspect it's the vacancies of the officers we would like to pay at the same rate we're paying them now, but we can go back and look. Any other questions
Not at this
before we
point.
take a break? Yes, Jamie.
No, I was just going to say during that break, it might be beneficial as well for the union to look at that list to see who we're including that should not be included. And that way we can match between the two.
How long would we like to break for? I'm looking at Biff.
Let's do 30 minutes to start.
Okay,
Is that okay?
great. So this meeting will be adjourned until 10 o'clock. All right, if everybody could let me know when we're ready.
I think the union is ready.
Okay. I just wanted to just make sure in terms of process that you all knew the eligible council dates to ratify any agreements over the next month. The council has a meeting on November 29th at 6 and December 6th at 6. They do have a day meeting, but we wouldn't normally put something like this on that agenda. And then the next scheduled city council meeting is January 10th. So there's quite a gap due to the holiday. I just wanted to make you all aware of. And with that, I'll turn it over to Adam.
Okay, and then we did verify during the break that there are 311 positions in the bargaining unit if they're all filled.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a package counter proposal for you that I think Biff is going to put into the folder. And I will just walk you through this. So wages, we're sticking with the city's proposed pay structure from that we've given you the last time we met, but we're increasing the wages. So we're proposing a 6% increase in year 1 in base pay and a 5% increase in year 2. For incentive pay, we're proposing for the FTOs, they would get the 5% that they're currently getting under the MOU. So we would incorporate the MOU, plus we're proposing they'll get an additional 5% while actively training a new officer to provide incentive for those individuals to serve in that position. Detective pay, we're willing to provide 3% incentive pay for detectives. There's a total of 40 detectives. It would apply to all of them. Comp time, we're continuing to propose our proposal number 8, which was originally presented on July 13th, and that's to reduce the comp time from 480 to 240 hours. The next one, the HRA VIBA, we're rejecting the union's proposal, but the city is willing to administer the program so that employees can begin contributing to their own HRA VIBA. The next one is sick leave, and you had given us a proposal on sick leave that we're willing to agree to. I think that's to increase the sick leave from 8 to 10 hours, and that would increase the pay at retirement. Is that correct? The next one, the civil service MOU. I know we've agreed to some language in there already. I think the important part for us is we want the language pertaining to the promotional process for lieutenants and sergeants to be deleted. We believe that should be a city right or management right. And then the last one, we're rejecting any other economic proposals that the union's given us that aren't addressed here.
Oh, thank you, Adam. So regarding item number 3, the comp time, the city's proposal, when we last left here discussing it, the city was going to, and the department was going to provide some insight to why that was needed, where the issue was, et cetera. Is it the city's intention to not provide that information at this time?
Yeah, I honestly don't recall that discussion, but I think we can talk about the need for it. I don't know if you're comfortable or talking about it.
So the issues that arise with having multiple officers with a large comp time bank is that they can put in for comp time, thereby requiring that the city pay overtime to fill shifts, particularly in patrol when those hours are used, and it becomes a continual, almost revolving door as officers are hired on overtime or time and a half to work those shifts. They can bank that into comp time and then take time off, requiring it to further compound itself. So we find ourselves with staffing shortages. Certainly when people use their comp time, they're entitled to that. And we do need to backfill those positions when we could drop below minimums. But having such a large bank available tends to increase the problems for management and for the city in filling those shifts and in costing extra money. Does that make sense?
To some degree, yes. Thank you, Chief. So previously, we had discussed things related to this. For example, like we have no vacation leave protection. So vacation leave can be canceled within no guaranteed time. So one of the concerns we had were that officers often use comp time to guarantee vacation leave. We also talked previously about shift trade stuff and creating a system, a process, because in theory, we have a shift trade. There's no process for it, and how those could possibly alleviate some of these same concerns. We understand that the organization is substantially short of personnel, and we've been, fighting that battle for a few years, right? And that contributes to this problem also. This is a big benefit that the union has. And for us to convince 250 members, we're probably going to need to see some kind of data related to how much is comp time really costing the organization in overtime related to minimums. Additionally, as you well know, minimums is kind of a sliding scale. Sometimes it's followed and sometimes it's not. These are the issues that we really have related to comp time. And what we asked for originally when this proposal was put forward was that we have further discussion related to exactly how much is it a problem for the department? How much money is it costing them in overtime? Are there other ways to mitigate some of these issues by having guaranteed vacations, having shift trade process, in addition to understanding that some of these shortfalls are going to be a little bit short term, because as the department catches up with its full-time employee rate and we get people working for us, there'll be less overtime, generating less comp time. Officers are not going to be burnt down mentally, where they feel like they need to take additional time off, where they're running ragged. So, that was kind of where we left it originally. And this is the first time that it's come back around. So I think that we'll probably take a caucus and have a discussion related to these topics and see where we go from there. So maybe 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. I can text Adam and let him know.
That sounds good. With that, we'll adjourn and go into caucus until 11:30. All right, welcome back, everybody. With that, I will turn it over to the union.
We have dropped a counter proposal into the union proposals from the last proposal the city provided. We're proposing a 6.25 in year one and a 6.25 in year two. We agreed to the city's proposal of 5+5 with the FTO pay. We reject the 3% for detectives and ask for a 3.5%. When it comes to comp time, we're rejecting it. And we want to remind the department and the city that the patrol captain recently did a study and a survey that found that greater than 50% of the overtime being spent and backfilled is due to training and sick leave, not comp time. And if we're going to give up our greatest benefit, we anticipate from the department and the city more evidentiary value of what they really need. We accept the city's VEBA contribution, allowing members to start contributing to themselves and keeping the current contributions the way they are. We accept the sick leave that we proposed in number 8. We reject the civil service deletion of language related to promotions. and are open to discussion for civil service rule changes as previously stated. And we are advocating for a incentive post-pay, which is commensurate with training and education, ensuring that officers are of quality and being the best they can for the citizens of 1.5, 2.75, and 3.75, as listed on the thing, down from 1.75, 3, and 4. Are there any questions?
Danny, if I could ask a question regarding number 6 on the list. The union is rejecting the city's proposal, but open to discussion of service rule changes. What is it about the city's proposal that makes you want to reject that, or what do you want to preserve in that regarding specifically the promotional process for lieutenants?
Well, so our position on the union is that sergeants are union members, and sergeants are the ones that test for lieutenant. And therefore, there needs to be a fair competitive process that is controlled with some regard. So our big concern previously is that whoever is leading the organization, not including yourself, but in the future, may have ill intent or may use this power inappropriately. And the last chief, we have reason to believe that that was his intention. And so getting rid of it and putting it in policy gives us no protection, because policy can be changed. You could change policy next week. So how do we protect our members and make a fair competitive process? I think that it's in the benefit of the department as well as the membership to have a fair competitive process for promotion thereby making the best candidates rise to the top instead of having something that isn't fair and isn't competitive. So we are open to the changes related to that, but we want to ensure that the union has a seat at that table and that we have some input on how that looks going forward.
Would you mind providing some clarity on what those actual adjustments would be?
So we have worked through them. Prior to showing up here today, we understand the intent was, once the economic side was done, that we would sit down and kind of work out where the city needed it to be in the department and where we needed it to be. So we do have some of that language available that we could discuss. I'm guessing, I don't know what time we're going to break for lunch, but we could pull that back up and we could go through that. If that's really what we need to do at this time, we can do that. But what we really want, what we're asking for, is that when you test for sergeant, there's a fair competitive process. And when you test for lieutenant, there's a fair competitive process. How that specifically looks is open, right? But what we fear is that if it's put into policy, then that can just be changed at a whim, depending on leadership, right? So if it's in the contract, then we're going to have to negotiate it. And so it's housed in the contract now, and we just want to make it the best for the department and our members, which we believe in turn will make it the best for the citizens.
Just a point of clarification, it's not contained in the contract, correct? It's in an MOU.
Correct. It's actually
Okay,
an MOU to the contract.
Thank you. Did we want to get into this now, or do we want to break for lunch, or?
I mean, our suggestion would be we break for lunch. That way we can pull up our documents and have them ready to go for expedited conversations And then I'll give the city time to look at the counter proposal. Which we may be putting a little bit of the cart before the horse. I mean, I think the city requested that we work through the economic packages first, but if we need to switch that direction.
We can stay with the economic proposals. I think how we got into this conversation is it's unclear from this document if you expected the city to reopen discussions about the civil service rule or that you all were preparing to do so. It sounds like you're preparing to do so after we have more conversations about the economic proposals. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have no preference to who starts that conversation. We are prepared to discuss it, whether that we explain where we stand or where the city stands. We're willing to work through that.
Okay. How long do you, Chief, did you need something?
Just a question, is anything in your document available for us to review during lunch so that we know what you're looking at or wanting, or just want to be as efficient as we possibly could with our time?
I think we can make those arrangements to send it to you guys during the lunch break so you guys could review it and maybe be a little more prepared for when we show up.
Okay.
How long would you like for lunch? 30 minutes.
30 minutes would work for us.
All right. So we'll consider this meeting adjourned until 12:30. Thank you. Come back, everybody. This is the continuation of the contract negotiation between the city of Boise and the Boise Police Union. With that, I'll hand it over to Adam.
Okay, so we talked about your package proposal, and I guess we just want to start by pointing out that we're talking about the city's pay structure versus the union's pay structure. And that alone, there's a difference in about $2 million between using our pay structure versus using your pay structure. And so we're going to give you another package proposal, and we're continuing to propose to use our pay structure. If you want to use the union's pay structure, then the base wages would need to come down to offset that. But so I think Biff is going to load up our proposal.
The file's there now.
Okay. So essentially, our movement is under the base wages. We're willing to go to 6 and 6. The FTO pay, I think both sides are in agreement on that. And I think we would be willing to separately TA that if you wanted to do that and get it off the table.
I don't think we're going to TA any agreement related to compensation unless it's like a package.
Okay. And I guess the other change was we're withdrawing our comp time proposal here. So we'll stick with the 480. Our proposal was 240. Parties were also in agreement on the HRA VIBA. And I think on the sick leave as well, your sick leave proposal. The civil service MOU, we are continuing to propose to delete the promotional process language for the lieutenants and sergeants. And I think the chief can speak more about that. And just to make it clear, we're continuing to propose our original proposal as to where we believe the language in the civil service MOU should go, but we can have further discussions about that.
Okay, so I have a couple quick questions on the pay structure, and maybe this is more directed towards Biff. So basically stretching it out from 13 years to 16 years is really where the difference is, because ours was 1 through 9, 11, and 13. And I believe yours was 1 through the cities was 1 through 9, 11, 13, and then 16. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. So the basic structure is correct. And really where the cost differential comes in, if you look at where imagine the current structure where employees get placed. So we're effectively taking what would be a 20-year pay rate and we're pushing it to 13 years. So you're pushing everybody through that whole structure much more quickly, and you're growing those wages on top of that. So that's where the cost of the union's proposal is significantly higher. In the city's iteration, we had proposed grandfathering the 20-year corporals. So we're not growing people up to that maximum rate that they otherwise would have been eligible for, but they cap out sooner in the pay structure. So those are things that are driving the cost difference between the two.
So with that proposal, the city is lowering the potential earning rate of our membership by lowering that, by grandfathering in the 20-year pay to no more 20-year pay. You're capping it now at a lower potential.
Well, and if you think back to, I think it was the first day at the table, the motive behind that structure was to create space for a supervisory position beneath the sergeants. And so even though you remember the first proposals that were exchanged both directions, there was that place. And so our structure is still trying, whether it's this negotiation or a future negotiation, we're still trying to hold that space so that we can successfully recruit for and fill those supervisory roles.
Thank you. We also want to note that on the original, part of our reason for compressing it was to get in compliance with modern day law enforcement, which most places are between 9 and 12 years of service or where that falls. And so our hope was to compress that to get more equity with other agencies and do what normal industry standard is. So we'll have to give that some consideration. I can tell you outright, we're not interested in lowering the cap. We can either lower that bar, but we're not going to remove a pay schedule from future earners. So if it's something that we need to go back to the drawing board on, or potentially leave the original schedule the way it is, then that may be something we look to. So we understand that it does accelerate it. There is additional costs related to that. And we figure based on our position, those figures compensate for that in some regard. And so we may have to look at alternate ways. But we are here representing the body, and we're pushing what their direction is. And so we may have to go back to the table with them and figure out what is the most important, because what we've been sent here with is that's the most important. We've been sent here with some minimum standards. And so, we work for them. So we'll have to figure that out.
Question in relation to that. If we are indeed looking at industry standards in that regard, and we're talking about making adjustments in the pay scale, are we also willing to look at industry standards and what is going on across the country related to comp time caps being 480 is way higher than virtually any agency I've found in the country.
Well, we understand that 480 is the maximum allowed by law. And we understand that's a substantial benefit to our membership. We've also continuously said at the table that we're willing to look at that and we're willing to have conversations about that. We didn't just say it wasn't on the table anymore. We didn't reject it and say that's off the table. So we are open to discussions, but we also need information, because I have to convince 250 people that there's a legitimate reason, and here's the benefit of doing so.
Thank you.
So when it comes to the civil service rules, perhaps we could speak a little bit about where the department would like to put those and why, and what protections they're going to provide us.
So I think redirecting back to the original city proposal regarding civil service rules, the idea of putting them into different banks, I don't know if that's easily accessible at this point, but
Yeah, the proposal was made on August 8th, so I think we need to go back to that folder to pull that up if you want to take a look at it. And it's proposal number 9.
So if my understanding is correct, I was not here at the time, but having reviewed this, they were put into basically 3 different buckets. The green being we would propose incorporating into the CLA, the yellow being adding those in yellow to department policy and then removing those in red. So that would be our ultimate goal from the city's perspective, to do those with the different things in the current MOU for civil service rules.
I would have to look to the notes, but I thought that that was rejected by us.
Yeah, I think our notes said that it's pending, that there wasn't a response, a formal response to it. If there was, I've forgotten about it.
Okay, well, we reject that offer. The things that are asked to be put over to policy are not amenable to the union membership.
And as far as it relates to the promotional processes, I think there is certainly room to talk about having the union involved in those processes. We would potentially meet and confer on those promotional processes and have the union involved as a measure or a remedy to removing them outright.
So the problem with that is, Chief, and this excludes you because you were not part of this, and so do not be offended that we say this. Meet and confer under some previous chiefs were meet and tell, and then it turned into tell. So many a time, the last administration, including the deputy chief, have said, if it's not in the CLA, we can do what we want. So what assurances do we have, and what assurances do my membership have, that when you leave and somebody else takes your spot, that we're going to be guaranteed that it's not going to be, it's not in there, I can do what I want?
Yeah, I think it goes back to this from the city's perspective. Many of these items are management rights. They aren't something that's typically bargained with a union or inserted into a collective bargaining agreement. And that's where our suggestions as to where they go, if it's something that traditionally belongs in a collective bargaining agreement, that's why we've got those in green. And if it's not, that's why we put it in yellow. And the red typically has always been a management right, and that's why we propose to remove those altogether.
Well, that's understandable, Adam, and I appreciate that. But nobody sitting on this side of the table was here when that process was done. It was a mutually agreed upon process by the city at the time. And that's the process we have. In fact, previously, the union had tried to remove them, and the department and the city fought us on that. So, fast forward to today, whether they're a management right or not, they're part of an MOU that's part of the contract. And so now they have to be dealt with.
And that's why we're here bargaining.
And I'll just mention, Adam, I'm not disagreeing that it's not in most contracts. However, I guess the question would be, how many of those states that have contracts that this is not in have Bill of Rights or officer rights in law somewhere else? Because Idaho does not have that. I know California does. I believe Oregon does as well. So that's maybe the difference that we're talking is, you may not be used to seeing them in a contract because you're typically negotiating in states that have officers' Bill of Rights that protect these processes that we don't have if they're removed.
Okay.
So I think if the position is that the city is unwilling to go through those, then we're basically going to have to go back to the membership and see where they want. But I can tell you that it was a very high priority on their list of things for these negotiations. So we're going to have to go back to the table with our membership and see how important it is to them, given the city's proposal and or the city's positions on things. So I guess at this point in time, without membership direction, I don't feel like we, because the direction is so far apart from what the membership sent us here related to civil service rules, that perhaps we'll have a meeting and revisit that with them and see how much of a priority it is for them.
Could I ask one clarifying question regarding this one small part of the civil service rules related to promotions? Was there any differentiation between the sergeant promotional process and the lieutenant promotional process in the eyes of the union body? In other words, do they care more about the sergeant process than they do about the lieutenant process, or is it all one package?
It's all one package because having a fair process for sergeants who are members to be able to promote is an important protection that they feel they need, as well as officer to sergeant level. So in reviewing this revised package, the 40 total detectives, I want to clarify, does that include the SROs or is that just the criminal investigation division?
It includes the 2 SROs assigned to
Okay.
health and welfare referrals, but not all SROs.
Okay, so what we had proposed for that. All right, thank you. I mean, ultimately, we're kind of stuck here on the pay and the pay scale. And I think that if the city's unwilling to reduce the pay scale any further than 16 years, I mean, we have come up, we originally started with, I think 11, and then we went to 12, and then we've gone to 13. We'll have to go back to the membership and get some better direction on that. Part of the problem is the removal of the top end scale, preventing people from reaching a certain ceiling and condensement. So if we need to abandon the condensement idea, that'll have to be on the union membership to decide. And we'll talk to them about the civil service rules and we'll have to go from there.
So then are you saying you're unable to proceed any further today?
That's what I'm sorry, maybe I'll restate it. We need to go back to the membership if we're going to discuss civil service rules and condensing of the scale.
So do you have a proposed timeline? that you're
Well, I mean, I would like to
sharing?
set a meeting for next week. I don't know what people's schedules are like. We, you know, I guess it depends on what people's schedules are like. So we'll have to set a meeting time for that. I don't know that, is there any other issues that the city would like to try to hammer out before we?
Yeah, I think it's all tied together. So
So I guess the question is yes. Is there a time the city would like to meet?
So just to clarify, you feel you can go back to your membership and have whatever discussions you need to, and then be back here meeting with us next week?
Yes.
Do you have any proposed dates or times to send across for us to check?
How does next Monday work?
So my schedule, the first is the only day that's available, and even that day I have an obligation in the evening. So unless I was doing this virtually, next week is not going to work for me.
I mean, the union has no opposition to you meeting virtually. I don't know what the city's position is.
We like them here.
Yeah, I'm in bargaining elsewhere on the 30th.
How does the 12th of
Sixth
December
are
work?
open.
What do you say?
The 12th of December.
I think we might be able to make the 5th or the 6th.
Yeah, the 5th or the 6th does not work on our side.
Could also do the 9th.
We can do the 9th. We do the 9th.
I cannot do the 9th. Somewhere now.
So the week of the 12th, I have a 4-day NLRB hearing, unfortunately. So that whole week is wiped out for me.
So December 1st. It's not the city's preference to have our council appear virtually, but otherwise it's going to be Christmas Day. Does the first work with y'all?
You can do that.
I can do it virtually.
Yeah, the first works.
Would it be okay, I'm just guessing, the use of this room if we started at 10 o'clock on the 1st?
10 is amenable.
Okay. So I believe we're agreeing to return to meet on December 1st at 10 o'clock.
That is correct.
All right. Any other business for today? All right. With that, we stand adjourned until December 1st. Thanks, everyone.